Let's bring in fellow at the Leadership Institute of Women's Leadership Program, Olivia Krolchak, along with Republican State Representative from Maine, Laurel Libby. Good morning to you both. Olivia, you've spoken out before on fairness in women's spaces. What do you make of this very public back and forth between Riley Gaines and Simone Biles?
What we are seeing here is an absolute disgrace to women's sports. We're watching someone who is able to reap the benefits of something like Title IX and access to single-sex spaces in sports turn around after retirement and say, well, now I'm bought and paid for. You guys should have to put the feelings of men over your own, and maybe you'll succeed in your sports.
Yeah, I don't know what happened to, women supporting other women. Laurel, do you think that athletes like Simone Biles, they're missing the mark when they frame their debate as one about inclusion rather than fairness?
I completely agree. Simone Biles had access to a fair, safe, and level playing field and won. And now she wants to deny that same right to other women and girls. Maine girls themselves are competing in state championships and outdoor track today and are going to have to compete against biological males. Completely unfair.
Yeah, absolutely. I have 3 daughters. They all play sports, and we've had conversations at the dinner table about this, and they all say that this would not be fair. They work really hard, to prove themselves in the sport. Olivia, is this debate really about transgender athletes, or is you think about preserving truth in biology, public policy and education?
Well, I absolutely think that this is just preserving the truth. What happened to follow the science? This is a common sense issue, which is what we saw with the last election. People want common sense issues to win. And that's why we're seeing, I would say, 90-10 on this issue, because it's ridiculous. We know there's biological advantages that men have over women. And then for someone like Simone Biles to come out and not only, say that these girls should have to put the feelings of men ahead of their own, but to then body shame Riley Gaines, who's 5'5", which is average height for a female, but to body shame her and say that she looks like a man and should have to compete against men is crazy.
Yeah, that was what I think a lot of people said. She went over the line with that. Laurel, we understand that, this is a state problem. You just mentioned what's happening in Maine. President Trump signed an executive order back in February that banned transgender athletes from women's sports. Do you want to see more done to, these liberal states, these counties and schools being held more accountable?
There needs to be accountability. Maine girls and girls across the country are being actively discriminated against by these policies that allow biological males access to their sports and spaces. In Maine, of course, we have legislation pending, but it's unlikely to pass given Governor Mills' extreme stance along with legislative Democrats. So yes, definitely more needs to be done. And whether that happens at the federal level or state remains to be seen.
Just a quick follow-up to that, Laura. What are girls and parents before we let you go, what would you say to young women out there, who feel like their opportunities are being erased after working, their whole lives for a fair shot, but also speaking out? I know that recently we had that girl who was in fencing and she had a competition and she didn't want to go against a boy, and she basically she bowed out. But a lot of girls are scared to speak up for themselves.
Of course, and I get that. I've been told I'll be the next Laken Riley, had people show up at my house. I've heard it all, seen it all, and it sucks. But I encourage everyone to speak out, not only just the girls themselves, but parents, adults, coaches, teachers, because this issue is a lot bigger than, oh, there's just a couple trans athletes competing. It's not a big deal. It really is when you start to look at what they're taking away from girls. They're taking away podium spots, competition team spots. They're also taking away scholarships from students. And these are people who are trying to make it to college in their sport, and we're giving away thousands of dollars to men instead.
Absolutely. Well, Olivia Krolchak, Laurel Libby, thank you so much. Really appreciate having you on this morning.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Information. Truth is freedom. Is Newsmax. It's real news for real people.